So welcome to our July Time to Restore quarterly call. The last time we all got together was in April, so it's nice to see this group of people together again. We might have a couple more people join, but I thought we can really keep it open to what you guys want to discuss. One thing that Gina had brought up, I think Gina's going to join us, was talking about maybe the pros cons of in-person versus virtual trainings and whether we have thoughts on like what's more effective for time to restore. So we can definitely get into that. I also thought we could talk a little bit about what we've been doing in terms of the virtual trainings that we've been offering once a month, and then the Plant of the Month series that we've been doing in the newsletters, and just see if there's like ways to, I don't know, get more out of that. Maybe like if we can get more people on the newsletters, or maybe repackage that information in different ways, including potentially the new app that we're developing. And then maybe try to get more people onto those virtual trainings as well. So I also can, if you guys want to see a summary of like the data that we have so far on priority species, I'm happy to share that if we want to look at that. So yeah, any thoughts on stuff that you guys want to talk about? Do you guys want to share any updates on what's been going on in the last few months in your states?
Well, we've got an intern this summer, a climate change intern, an air quality intern, and she's been doing a lot of data collection and also cross-referencing because Colin and Brandon have 80 zillion photos. They're all time and date stamped and location stamped. So she's going back through and compiling that data and trying to update it. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so very happy about that. And she's really enjoying being part of the project. You may have met her, Cassie Grudeleschen. She was on one of the trainings, I think, or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So she's that's been really great to have her on board, and I've recently connected with the Oklahoma Native Plant Society and the Oxley Nature Center, and then the Philbrook horticultural staff, and hopefully they're all coming on board as well. So just trying to still get more data collection sites, and then continuing to do a lot of our native plant outreach and pollinator outreach that we've been doing. We had a big conference in early June that had about it was close to 200, maybe a little over 200 people, and that was a big 2 day thing, and that was really good with a lot of monarch and pollinator stuff, and so that's been very good. And then just continuing just do outreach in just all different ways. So that's kind of the news here is I am trying to work on the data collection sites. I'm working, I know we need more of that, and then just continuing to do the outreach that we've been doing. And so that's kind of the news from here.
Awesome. I have a couple questions for you. So on the photos, are those photos that are like could potentially be phenophase photos, like close up of different things, like an open flower on one of the species?
Yes.
Oh, so we are trying to compile photos, for the new mobile app. The intention is to have a photo for each of the phenophases on each of the species list, it's a lot. So we have a student who's going through and trying to compile those, but for the species that he's not very familiar with, it's been kind of challenging for him to go mostly into iNaturalist and try to figure out what's the best photo that
Yeah.
shows like close up of open flowers for this species. So if you guys are willing to help with like maybe sending us some of your photos, if you're willing to make them, they have to be like a, Creative Commons open source kind
Yeah,
of.
that's fine. We don't restrict the use of our photos on anything. So um so let me I'll talk to Cassie and also Colin and Brandon, and we'll see about doing that because we would love to help out with that. And like I
Okay,
said, they have tons and tons and tons and tons of photos. So
awesome.
all
The
sorts
other
of species. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So what I would do probably is I'll look at our list and let you know like which ones we actually really need, like maybe like the list of species that are in Nature's Notebook we need photos for. The other thing is I think it's been tricky to figure out what kind of inflorescences the species have. So, that in Nature's Notebook right now, when you look at the definition of something like flowers or flower buds, it tells you like if this species does have inflorescences, count the inflorescences. But it doesn't say like whether or not they do have that and like what they even look like. So we were hoping to also add in like actually tell you like this species does have inflorescences and it's an umbel, and this is what an umbel looks like. And ideally, you'd even have like the picture of that species kind of like with the inflorescent shape. But if we can't get to that level of granularity, it would be like, this is what a umbel looks like generally for a similar
Okay.
species or for, a different species. So do you feel like do they have pretty good knowledge about that kind of thing where they could help compile some of that?
Definitely.
That would
Yeah.
be great. Yeah. So I'll be in touch with you about those things. We're kind of like just getting into that and figuring out the plan for that going forward. But yeah, it
Okay.
sounds like you guys have a good resource there that we could maybe use.
Yes.
That would
Yes,
be
yeah.
great.
So yeah, because so they're very good about anyway, thousands of photos and documenting everything. And they're out in the field all the time. So yeah, we'd be happy to share anything and everything with you all. And so I'll wait to hear back from you. In the meantime, I'll talk to Colin and Brandon and Cassie about how that might work or whatever.
Great. And then I wanted to ask you if I know we had worked on those kind of like simplified data sheets at one point. Have those been useful at all? Or not
No,
really.
I
Okay.
thought they were, but I still can't make anybody do them. I'm so
Okay.
sorry, Erin.
No, that's okay.
It's just I whine at people, I beg. It's just people just don't like to do this. We're a failure as a state because I cannot get
No,
people
it's
on to do
okay.
this. I'm
I think,
sorry.
the new app will be much more easy to use, with the different levels and having the photos and all that. So yeah, I feel like hopefully it'll be much more widely useful and used
I
across
think it,
different areas.
I think it's going to. So anyway, I'm super enthused about it. So anyway, okay, yeah. So no, I can't make them do that. Yes, I've tried, but I'm continuing. Like I said, I'm still recruiting new partners. I've got some very promising new leads. Cassie's doing a lot of data. So yeah, that's what's going on with us.
Cool. And then I guess the last thing is, so you mentioned, coordinating with some potential new partners. If it's helpful at all, David and I are doing these once a month virtual trainings. And so
Okay.
this is the first Wednesday of the month. And we have two more that we have scheduled that you can actually register for right now.
Okay.
And so definitely I'm gonna grab the link and put it in the chat, but send this
Okay.
around and encourage people, if they want kind of like it'll be a little bit of an overview. I guess it's less of a
Yeah.
an overview of the project. And this next month, August 4th, I think it is, will be like we're gonna do some recap of like how it's going with the data collection, maybe identify any issues that we see, give a little bit of training, and then have a time for people to ask questions. So could be
Okay.
potentially
Yeah.
useful.
What do you know what off the top of your head, do you know what time of day that is or
It's 6:30 Central.
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Where is that? Okay, so the newsletter should have that. So we send out this monthly newsletter as well. I'm going to share my screen actually. So this is our monthly newsletter. I'll put in the chat to sign up for this. And we try to send this out like at the very start of the month because we're trying to get people into these trainings. So this last one went out, I think July 1st, and then we had the training July 2nd. But this link actually should work for the rest of the trainings as well. So the August and September calls, yeah, for presentation on the data collected so far, how to improve data quality, opportunity to ask questions. So, oh, it's the 6th. Is that right?
Yep. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. The 6th, which is the
Yep.
Wednesday, and then
Yep.
September 3rd. And
Yep.
this is Arizona time, so 6:30 Central.
Yep.
And people
Okay.
can sign up for both or just one.
Okay,
And
that's
we're
terrific.
trying,
Yeah.
and
I'm
Jane,
sorry,
we're
go ahead.
trying really hard to have it be both a questions and answer session as well as a bit of background on the time to restore project. So it's not just a presentation on one or the other. It's really meant to be a forum to kind of share information and get a bit of a, wet your whistle, if you will, about what the project's about. We were alternating them, so we were going every other month. One, we would do a presentation on the project that was a bit more drawn out, and we now are going to switch over and do these right here at the tail end to see if it has a different feedback on the audience.
Okay. Okay, terrific. Okay, I will definitely pass that around widely and I'll see if I can get Colin and Brandon to come too. So
And
anyway, I'll
Aaron,
try.
maybe this would be a good time for me to jump in there and go ahead
Sure.
and pick up on that. And so since January, we have here in Texas, so I help coordinate the Texas effort. Here in Texas, since January, we've had 975 individuals go through a live training session on time to restore. And those are audiences from all over the state. Three of them were in person. I did them in person. All of the others have been largely Zoom sessions or some type of virtual session that anybody in the state of Texas or outside the state of Texas could join in on and learn a bit about time to restore and our efforts here, as well as Nature's Notebook in general, and how they might be able to plug in wherever they're at. So 975 since then. That effort is still going on. In fact, tomorrow night I am doing another Time to Restore general presentation for the Austin metro area, which is our state capital. And we're already over 150 attendees for that. And so Austin was the last major Texas metro area that didn't get their own dedicated session. So we're really excited to be able to deliver this. San Antonio, Dallas-Fort Worth, and Houston have gone through at least one. Most of them have gone through two, which will get us, we're hopeful this will push us over the 1,000 live participants in the project since January. We've also had another 412 individuals that have gone through a recorded session of the presentation. So we have been recording all of these presentations, and then when somebody reaches out to me and says, "Hey, can you tell me about Time to Restore? I'd like to be part of it." We can actually immediately plug them into a recorded version, and then put them in queue to go for a live session. This recorded versus live, I'll share with y'all for the benefit of the group, has become a bit of a big deal here in Texas because the master gardeners and the master naturalists, who are heavy volunteer audiences for us, require live training to be able to count it as credit for their advanced training. And so that has made us kind of need to continue to do these live trainings. And the rule of thumb we've been using up to this point now is in the beginning, I was accommodating any audience. So if you could produce an audience, I would talk to you. We've now gone to a little bit different model where if they have a reasonable expectation that they can produce at least 50 viewers and participants, we will set up a training for them. And that's how the Austin one got set up. We did another one up off the Oklahoma-Texas border near Sherman just last week. And so we're getting, in fact, Jane, you may find this interesting. I actually had as many Oklahomans in that because they volunteer at the Eisenhower State Park on the Red River. So I had as many Oklahomans there in that training as I did Texans. So we're happy to have them when they join us because, of course, many of the plants are the same. And if we can help them get connected, that's what we want to do. So our efforts are continuing. I spend most mornings working on questions from active data collector volunteers anywhere in the state that are working through why their plants don't quite make sense or why their plants won't cooperate. But that has become a lot of fun for me because I've learned so much about the plants in the different parts of the state because they do so differently because of the drier areas and the wetter versions. It's been a lot of fun. Back to you, Aaron.
Yeah, it's some amazing numbers there. You definitely figured out like the key to the state of Texas is master naturalists for sure, and the NIPSOT members. But
Yeah,
there's a lot of
NIPSOT as well.
enthusiasm there, and there are a lot of them.
Yeah.
So it's been a really great source of people in that state in particular. Not always the same thing in other states though. Like we've talked a lot in some of our LPL calls, and a lot of people either like don't know how to connect with master naturalists or feel like it's not really a huge source of volunteers for them. So it just kind of depends on where you are. But I'm so glad that it's worked out so well in Texas. Another thing I was thinking about is, you've done like amazing outreach efforts and reached probably like over 10,000 people, right, in your efforts to like let people know about this. And that has resulted in a lot of people doing the trainings. It's interesting that a lot of people come to many trainings and I keep seeing the same faces, even though they've done a training, they'll come again to the same thing. But I think that just shows you that some people want to hear things 3 times, to really like have it sink in.
Well, and Aaron, so I know I started, these last couple of times we've done it, I've noticed I'm seeing some other people. And so I don't even know if I shared this with you, but it might be good for the rest of the group. I actually reached out to some of those individuals and asked them, and they said they just like being connected as part of the project. They feel like it's a connection to the project. And so it's not that they're learning anything new specifically, it's just that they like this camaraderie as being part of a bigger initiative. And so I
Yeah.
celebrate that and encourage them to continue on with this.
Cool. Yeah, and one other thing I was thinking about as you were talking is, you do handle a lot of emails every day because of the quantity of people that have gone through these calls. And I wonder, is there anything that you would do differently now, like that would kind of, I don't know, maybe not like prevent some of those messages, or I don't know, is there a way to make things so you are doing less of that hand holding, do you think, of that individual
Yes,
basis?
absolutely, Aaron. One of the biggest things I would do, and we've done it in a couple of the urban areas, recruiting a volunteer lead team has proved to be something that I should have really done kind of as a matter of course. And for the benefit of the group, that's where we go in and we spend some time working through volunteers who are saying, hey, I want to be part of the project and I want to lead in my local area.
Mhm.
Um, that kind of just happened haphazardly for us as we were moving forward. I've got three groups, all in major urban areas, that are kind of becoming the on the ground leaders who can field a lot of really basic questions. And that takes a lot off me. But I think, Aaron, in hindsight, I would have spent a bit more time setting those up because the areas that I'm spending most of my time in the mornings on are areas that are more rural, which is
Mhm.
kind of what I should be doing.
Yeah.
And the areas that have urban kind of teams really could take on a bit more, and they want to take on more. So that's probably the biggest lesson learned.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's interesting because we go about that usually the other way where we try to recruit local phenology programs, which are the organizations that then train observers. But with Time to Restore in Texas in particular, we've been training a lot of individuals that are then seeking that, like, give me someone that I can talk to and have that community. And so yeah, it's just a different way of doing it. But at least with the master naturalists, they do kind of have that natural system in place where there's chapters and there's usually like leaders within those
Yeah.
chapters. But do you feel like are most of the leaders that have stepped up, are they already like leaders in their chapters, or are they more like just people that want that role for
Yeah,
phenology?
no, actually, Aaron, that's exactly right. You've hit on something really key. And so now when I go to a new area, I try to identify who that person is. These are
Yeah.
people who already were kind of leader types, and they already were working in areas that lent itself to time to restore. So, if and when we get to a point where time to restore is not our major priority, we've got a natural model here that we can continue to finesse in terms of how we use Nature's Notebook as a nature-based data collection tool. And so I can already see ways we could make this continue in a big way, just having learned through that process.
What about New Mexico or Louisiana? Do you guys want to share anything?
Sure. So sorry, I logged on a little bit late.
Okay.
But for Louisiana, we've been interestingly having kind of a different experience with the master naturalists. The chapters in Louisiana are a little bit smaller and a little more loosely organized, it seems. So we've gotten mixed results from doing trainings with master naturalists where there's a lot of interest in the initial training, but it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of follow-up, especially in areas where there's not a signed, accessible phenology trail for people to go to. So I'm kind of trying to explore what more effective outreach tools would be for my area because I've had the most success with working directly with habitat managers who, like David said, are already kind of in that position to be working in a similar field and having an interest in the subjects that Time to Restore covers. I've had a lot more success with um, what's the word that I'm looking for? Just general park managers and biologists than I have with master naturalists for the most part. But we did a training at the Audubon, Louisiana Nature Center in person recently, and there were about 20, 25 people there. And that went pretty well. There were actually a lot of kids there, which was sweet and maybe not the most, long-term target, but we had a lot of interested folks from other organizations approach me to ask about participating in the future. So that went well. Kind of trying to just expand outreach to other kind of tightly run ship type of parks that have the volunteer presence and the management presence to enact these kinds of things more easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Going after the ones that have existing volunteer or groups that you can kind of draw from that pool of people is really helpful. So was that the training that you did, was it kind of like an overview of the project, or was it like kind of more in the weeds on doing the data collection?
It was an overview of the project with a field component where we went and ran through the more in the weeds elements of data collection. So they did pretty well. We got rained out about halfway through the trail, but we had several folks say that they were going to come back and ask me to go through it in person for the full trail. So
cool. Yeah, so that's interesting. You had asked about kind of the value of the in-person versus the virtual trainings and like what seems to be most effective. And for the project, we're doing these once a month virtual trainings, which I think is a nice way for people to figure out, is this something I'm interested in? It's like that kind of overview and like info session kind of a thing,
right.
With a little bit of detail on how do you do this, but I feel like you almost need to do that first, and then they need something else that's like in person, hands-on, to
Yeah.
really feel like they're confident to go off and do it on their own.
Right.
And I think that's where David was saying the kind of the local leaders can really help with that. We've had a lot of programs use this like mentor model as well, where if they've been going for a while, they have like experienced people, and so they'll kind of pair up a experienced person with a new person, sometimes for like a set period of time, where it's like you can't do this on your own until you've gone out with this mentor for a whole season or a year. And that's hard for new programs because you don't have those experienced volunteers, but it's a nice model to aim for, I think, eventually. Any other thoughts on that? I think also it's nice with the virtual trainings, and maybe they're not always trainings necessarily, but that idea of like keeping that community going. You could have a virtual info session, an in-person session, and then more of those virtuals to kind of like keep people interested and maybe answer questions as people have them.
Yeah, Aaron, that's a great point. So because our first Wednesday, we're struggling with what to call that. Our first Wednesday session, we were calling them trainings, but they're really not from here on out. I have been inviting anybody, in fact, I did it as early as this morning, inviting anybody that wants to be part of a live audience to go ahead and watch the pre-recorded version so that they get a bit more background and then can use that time during our first, of the month Wednesday session as something they can do more questions and answers. So hopefully that's a new model that we can also kind of better refine as well.
Cool. Did you want to share anything, Kim, from New Mexico?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in. I'm grateful to not go directly after David. And certainly I feel like our experiences are a little more in line with other states. We do mostly the student-led monitoring of phenology, so it's kind of been staff-led. I do have a master naturalist class coming up, so that's an opportunity to try to get them involved in taking some of the phenology monitoring down in the Whitfield area and the area. But most of our numbers come from our 7th grade classes, and our students are learning about the cottonwood phenology. And our education director is out on maternity leave, so I don't actually have any of our numbers from this last quarter, but I know it continued through the end of the school year. And then on a really positive note, even though we received our award for this funding.
You're muted now. I don't know what happened. I don't know if you can hear. Oh, yeah. There you go. Oh, oh no.
Oh no, oh no.
Okay, she'll be back.
Yeah. Well, while she's getting back on, Aaron, let me jump in there and add. So Gina just brought up something, and Kim just echoed it, and I think it is a challenge for the hive, if you will. There appears to be something very different happening in areas that are more rural, and I'm not sure exactly that I've figured it out yet. But that it's going to take a different model in the rural areas, because I know I'm spending a lot of time with them, but I don't feel like we're getting as much traction. And it's kind of what Gina just said and Kim just echoed. It's going to take a different model. We're having phenomenal success here in Texas in the more urban, more populated areas with the model that we're using to reach out to groups that are already very volunteer driven. But it's not working very well in the rural areas. And I'm spending a lot of time in there that I don't feel like is producing as much results. So just to send this out to the hive, there is a better model that we're going to have to build in those areas that are less populated, more rural.
Yeah, it's a good thing to think about. We've tried to do, this kind of like train the trainer model before. It's kind of the idea of like having a trained local phenology leader. And that's kind of why we have that certification course that we run, is to identify someone who does want to be in that position. And then they can kind of like create their program around them. But yeah, it does require being able to access those people. So if you're so rural that you don't even have like that group to tap into, yeah, what do you do in those cases? And then it's like the infrastructure of it too. Like if you need to go and do that one-on-one training with people, do you ask people to come to you? Do you try to go out to them? I don't know. It's kind of like you want this like satellite of a bunch of people that have someone within driving distance, I guess, that they can talk to and visit with.
Yeah, Aaron, that's a good point. It does seem at least part of the solution or part of the magic part of this is that they're looking for some kind of connection to at least a small group. They're wanting some kind of connection. That trying to do this out on your own alone is a bit hard to sustain. That's what it does feel like. And so I'm not sure how we're going to build that in where we can keep them still. I mean, we've done a lot of things all at various points to try to make that more exciting and more plug-inable, if you will.
Yeah.
But it does seem to feel like, and then when we did our LPP conversation the other day, I keep hearing this. It needs the social part. It needs a part where people feel like they're part of something bigger, even when it's in a more rural, smaller area.
Maybe we need a buddy system. Like you just find one other person that's near you. I don't know how we would do that, like on the website. Looks like Kim, are you back on the phone? And Melanie's here. Welcome, Melanie. Nice to see you.
Hi. Sorry, I got students, so I'm kind of only able to join when I can, but I appreciate hearing when I'm here.
Okay, yeah, we're still kind of doing like updates from various places. So yeah, if you want to jump in at any point, feel free.
Yeah, hi, Melanie. And yeah, my call just went Caulfield, so I'm not sure. But that takes my audio away too. So I missed the conversation while I was trying to get back on.
Oh yeah, we were just kind of going back to that, talking about what to do about people that are in rural areas that like don't have that community, and what are some potential ways we could try to like get them to connect with other people or have like a leader that could work with them or something like that. That's what we were talking about while you were reconnecting.
Nice. Yeah, well, and if we find ways to, again, some of our, I think, master naturalists in some of our rural areas would be really invested, but they absolutely would need that connection piece. But the funding that we received a year ago for whatever reason has been in limbo. And just last week, I got the actual index. So we are now have the funds to move forward with the in-person Pueblo and tribal listening sessions.
Awesome.
So
Yay!
yeah.
Good job.
Like
We will
everything else
take
has been
that.
kind of fallen. I know, right? I'm like, and I got, lovely apologies. We're like, we don't know what happened, but here is your money. Like, yay.
Oh boy. Well, at least it's a good outcome. That's
yes,
awesome.
absolutely.
Cool. So yeah, we happy to help with the planning of that whenever you guys want to.
Yes, that I would like to start moving that forward. I just have a fear some of the funding is it's a match for federal dollars that are being kind of clawed back. So I'd like to at least get this done before they claw back any funds.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well let's let's talk soon. And the so the person who was who's taking over for Jake is who is that now? Her.
I do have her name. Let's see.
Yes. Let me see if I can grab that. So Jake Palazzi has moved on to a different position. I think he moved out of the state. Is it Amelia Cook? Is that person that took over or no? We'll find the name of that person and yeah, let's get a call on the calendar soon for that.
Yeah, great.
And we'd love to have Melanie involved too, since you're on the call. Let you know that you'll be on that email chain.
Oh, that'd be great. Awesome. I see Jane too. Hi, Jane.
Hi, Melanie, how are you doing?
Good. How's your summer going?
Good. It's just, I can't believe it's like 2/3 over, and we've had this very crazy rainy summer here. I don't know if other people are having this, but we had the wettest April on record, I think the wettest May and possibly the wettest June. And so it's been very odd. And now all of a sudden it's just very, very hot and very humid. So anyway.
Yeah, I feel like weather's strange in a lot of places, which makes this whole phenology sort of project and programs that much more interesting and pertinent, So
Well, it does. And so what we've seen, and we're all trying to figure out if it's the rain or just I don't know, whatever, is a real, very delayed insects and butterflies and bees and everything, very, very delayed. Now fireflies, everything. Now we're seeing them kind of, at the beginning of the summer, we're all thinking, is this the insect Armageddon? Is everything just dead? Because there was just nothing out there. But now we're seeing more, but, it's weird, like on some of the common butterfly species, like last year, we had Gulf fritillaries everywhere. We had pipevine swallowtails everywhere. This year, they're like gone. Monarchs, we've only seen a handful of monarchs all summer. I mean, so it's very weird patterns here. So that's why I'm on this project, is because I think somebody needs to be paying attention and trying to do something about it. So anyway.
Jane, lest you think that is just up there here in Houston, I have a massive, literally an entire fence of passion vine that I bet I haven't seen maybe a handful of Gulf fritillaries this year. They're just, and I went from last year, which was a bonker year. So, yeah, it just makes me very concerned because there's probably 400 blooms out there on that passion vine right now, and I'm lucky if I get to see one or two a day. So something's not right, and they're usually covered.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to third that. It's been the same in Louisiana as well, exact same anecdotal observations.
Yeah, actually we have a Nature's Notebook Nest call, another call opportunity if people want to join in on the first Monday of the month. It's open to anyone in the country who's a Nature's Notebook observer or phenology leader. We were all talking about it, and it was people from pretty much every region of the country. Connecticut, we had a couple people in the Northwest, someone who was in North Carolina, I think, and everyone was saying that they were noticing the lack of pollinators of all kinds. It was butterflies and bees. And I think other things too. Those are the ones that people mentioned explicitly, but yeah, it's very concerning. So I'm glad to hear, Jane, that you're starting to see some at least now, even though they're late, but
yeah. So I don't know, but it's just it's very strange. It's very alarming. And then obviously there's a lot going on politically, which we won't go into, but between that and having all the insects disappear, it's been and then torrential, like, record-breaking rain. It's been kind of a strange time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it a cool spring for you there, or like unusually wet?
It was cool and rainy,
Okay.
cooler than normal and very rainy.
Yeah.
And obviously, I mean, obviously, other places have had far worse flooding than we have, but it's just we're seeing even native plants can't really cope with this much rain.
Mm.
They're just anyway, and now with it being so hot, now the shallow rooted stuff is all dying even after all that rain. So I don't know, strange times.
Yeah, a couple of people I think that were in the Northeast and Midwest were saying they had had a cool, wet spring, and they were wondering if that had something to do with the lack of pollinators.
Yeah. Yeah. And even the birds, I mean, which is not surprising, was the number of birds seems to be way down as well, which is not surprising because insect life is down. So
Okay.
anyway, strange.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I've had so my mornings usually start with answering emails from data observers on the Time to Restore project, and one of the things that's been real interesting is everybody is, I probably get 3 or 4 emails a week that are, this plant has not done this in the past. Should I continue to collect the data and put it in, because normally it would be done by now? And I'm like, absolutely, that's the story we're trying to tell. Please continue to do that. So plants are acting just as odd and experiencing things just as interesting and observable as all of the other organisms that we all know and love.
Yeah. It's true. So I was noticing in our pasture, the sneezeweed, Helianthum autumnale, whatever, is 3 times normal, taller than it's normal. I mean, it's like 24, 30 inches tall. I mean, this is normally like a very, squat little plant. And I guess it's the rain. I don't really know. It was, I've never seen that plant behave like that in whatever, 60 years. So anyway, it's definitely strange times.
We've got we've got the same thing with the common sunflower. The common sunflower usually here, because the rains start to taper off about, well, usually not as sustained as they've been. Our common sunflowers are twice the size. I mean, literally you can't see other individuals through them because they're now 10, 12 feet tall. So,
Oh, I bet that's
yeah,
something to see. Yeah.
it's actually quite breathtaking to see it. But it makes you wonder. It's like, okay, if this is happening, and the odd thing is, and you just mentioned that about birds, which is interesting. My bluebirds normally during a wet year they can continue to it's not uncommon for them here on the Gulf Coast to get 3 broods out of their box each year. They all abandon their nest. So I have 3 boxes up. All 3 of them abandoned their nest after the second brood was fledged. So something's wrong with the insects, because they primarily feed caterpillars to their young, and I haven't seen many caterpillars, which tracks with not seeing many butterflies. So something is quite concerning.
Do you think that might have something to do with um, any sprays or uh, applications of, you know, fungicides, pesticides, herbicides, you name it?
Yeah, it definitely can here. So I live in the central part of Houston, so I'm in as urban as it gets. So anytime they do mosquito spraying, anytime they do any kind of spraying for usually even if herbicides, I'm impacted. But I was just trying to do this, like Jane mentioned, I was just doing this from what I expect from over last year. So, I don't know that they've changed any of those. They could have changed some of it, but it seems like there is a natural insect missing cohort. And it just doesn't seem, and even when I'm out there, the plants are obviously responding to the rain and really growing, but something is off with the insects. And the bluebirds really, that caught me off guard because normally in a wet year, they will continue to go through that third brood. And like I said, they abandoned their nest. They, laid 1 egg, 2 eggs, and then just abandoned them. And I think it had to do with the fact that there were not enough insects to feed the young that they might have produced in that third nesting.
Yeah. And and Melanie, you've been to our place. I mean, we shouldn't be getting any drift from anything, and we're still seeing the same thing. This just massive, they just
Right.
disappeared. So,
We've had some really good rains, which has actually sustained the bloom. So same thing, yeah, like some things are still around that wouldn't normally be around. And things are definitely taller. I mean, we've also had, a few places that have had severe flooding, like devastatingly so. I mean, nothing as intense as what just happened in Texas, but lives were still lost. So it's yeah, everything's just in flux, and I think it makes me wonder. We're just starting it, but we're sending off some plants, and even flowers and pollen, mostly the pollen, to see what sort of nutritional values it has. And there's not a lot of baseline data. I know USDA is trying to work on it and a couple other universities just to get baseline data of like what is the protein content of this particular plant or what have you. And then we can see if that changes over time. But I remember, and I don't know, I don't mean to make this conversation go off topic, but um the I had seen a presentation at one point, and it was some Italian researchers who had shared that, yeah, with shifting climate, the plants that are providing pollen and nectar for a lot of these pollinators, those pollens and nectars are not as nutritious as they have been in years past. And I think when it's a stressful year, it's going to play out. We're seeing a lot of plant growth, but that might take away from actually content, you know.
Interesting.
Um, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's
I
something I think for us to monitor.
for sure. Yeah, I haven't heard that. That's really interesting. I have heard that the plants can become more allergenic under climate change, and I think that's like with warmer temperatures, they're like more allergenic to people. I don't know what it is about them that makes them that way, but it seems like it's changing the physiology. So I could see it changing the nutrition as well.
Melanie, where are you at? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Okay,
But we
okay,
we work with groups, up to Taos in southern Colorado. I mean, we work
okay.
with whoever, but we but we're that's our at least our sort of, within a day's drive kind of thing that we can do.
Very
And
good.
then down to West Texas as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, I monitor mainly this, I'd say central to northern New Mexico area. And it's just yeah, I think things are changing. That's all we know. I'm feeling grateful because we've had good rains, but it is hit and miss. Like we just saw a wildfire, that supposedly was from lightning, and then Forest Service said that they were going to, that it was since it had started itself pretty much in a prescribed burn area, they were going to let it do its thing, and of course then it ran out of control. So,
Yeah.
there's still some spots that are, I want to say, experiencing, not enough moisture. So,
Yeah, that just happened at the Grand Canyon as well on the north rim.
right,
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. I don't, is that one contained yet or I
it's
don't know.
18% contained. At
Oh,
least the
goodness.
one that's on the rim. There's the white sage one. I think it's even larger up towards the
Mm,
Fuchsia.
And I think y'all the big takeaway, and of course this is preaching to the choir, but the reality is at a time when we most need the data to understand what's going on, we're under fire in terms of being
exactly.
able to get the resources to be able to do that. And that's the real crying shame in this. Not that
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to advance any political agenda. We would just like to have data so that we can be smarter about what we're up against. And that's the difficulty in this all.
Thank you to all of you for all that you're doing in your various states to try to collect the data. We really appreciate it. I did want to ask you all about thoughts on for our next newsletter, what plant we might feature. So we're trying to, stick with one of our priority species, and I'm just going to share again the newsletter that we send out. So last month or this month, July, we did the mealy blue sage, which I know has lots of common names. And so usually with our plant of the month series, we have kind of some natural history information about the plant. And then we explain like how you would report on it with the phenophases, the life cycle stages in Nature's Notebook, with pointing out, what is a flower bud versus an open flower on this plant. And then we also try to help with those difficult intensity questions about how would you count the flowers. And this is where we bring in that information about the inflorescences and show you like, this is one and this is one. So we've been doing that, and we do also of the percent that are open. So we've had, these are the species that we've done so far. So just wanted to throw out if anyone has an opinion about a plant that might be good to feature that we haven't done yet for August, we'd love to have suggestions for that. We're trying to do either, it can be one of these 8 regional priority species, or it could be one of the Louisiana or the Texas. They have their own list because they wanted to have more plants in those areas because they weren't able to find these species as easily. So definitely looking for suggestions there.
Was bee balm already done?
Did we do that?
Like,
I don't
with
think we did.
Monday or
Oh,
something?
Monarda, yeah, that could be a good one. We
I mean,
I
I
don't
saw
think-
the list above. You had Monarda fistulosa, but
Yeah, I don't think
also
we did
now-
any Monarda.
Yeah, we also now have Monarda at the genus level. So if you're not sure which
Right.
one it is, you can just monitor it as like any Monarda. So yeah,
Right.
we could definitely do that. Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
And it's a
Might be good
great plant. Great plant.
Sorry, I was
Yeah,
going to say it might be good to do one
one
of
of
the
my favorites.
Liatris as well. I think those are pretty wide ranging across Texas and Louisiana.
Yeah.
And I don't think they've been done so far.
What did you say, Gina? I
Uh,
didn't catch-
Maybe, sorry, my connection's cutting out a little bit. One of the Liatris, the
Okay,
blazing stars.
yeah.
Yeah, and Aaron, I'd tag on to what Gina just said there, because I've had individuals start to already get anxious about how to monitor that species. So
Okay.
that would be a good one, because it does have a totally different growing, flowering situation that at least visually looks very different. So Liatris would be a really good one.
Okay. Well, maybe we could do those 2 for over the next 2 months.
Yeah.
Is one of those more likely to be flowering now or in August versus the other? We could look at the data we have too, but
Yeah.
just off the top
Here
of
on the
your
Gulf
head.
Coast, we've got them both. So I don't
Okay.
know what Gina's
So
seeing in
either way,
Louisiana. Yeah.
Pycnostachya is blooming right now. I don't see a ton of Aspera or Squarulosa, but we see a lot of Pycnostachya. But I think that's a little bit more regionally contained. So we might even just do it at the genus level. I don't know.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Indian blanket would be a nice one too, which I
Okay.
think is
Yeah.
let's see.
You have that on the Louisiana list.
And it's
Maybe on
all
the
over
Texas
here in
list.
It
Houston.
is all
It's
over.
everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It is that's got to be one of the toughest plants in at least the southern part of the U.S. I mean, I see it everywhere, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's Gaillardia pulchella, something like that.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
know it's
Yep.
on the Texas list,
Yep, it is.
right? Yes. Uh-huh. Okay, cool.
Firewheel.
Questions. Yeah.
Bye.
Cool. Anything else that anyone wanted to share before we say goodbye for today?
Well, let me jump in there and thank everybody for jumping on the call. I know it always takes a little bit to carve out some time in your calendar for everybody who's so busy, but thanks for doing it. It's always great to get a little bit of extra energy from others that are working in the trenches in other parts of the country. And so I thank you personally, getting to hear your stories and your experiences. It makes it feel not quite so alone as we all go about trying to make a difference in this whole world.
And my David. Yeah, and just to put a plug in for next time, we might be able to turn back to looking at some more of the data as part of the project. I don't want to put Erin on the spot, Erin Zalstra, but she has been working on some really cool summaries of some of our intensity data, just to try to get a feel for like what we can and can't do with those data. And we actually opted to start with some locations that are being monitored by people that have been monitored for a very long time, where it's very consistent monitoring. So it's kind of like if someone does Nature's Notebook in the most ideal way, kind of the way that we would hope that everyone would, can we even get the kind of information out of it that we want to? So for an example, Ellen Denny is one of our team members here. She's actually in Maine. She's been collecting data. She's our monitoring design and data coordinator. She's been collecting data for like 12 years, more than that probably at her house. And so she has a super consistent data set. So Erin's been looking at that to see like, can we see these kind of peaks in flowering and like, can we pick up on things like oak masting in the data? Because if we can't, even with those really good sites, we're going to have to make some changes to the protocol. So that's the intention there. I don't know if you want to say anything else about that, Erin, that whole effort, but maybe we can share some of that next time.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add at this point, just kind of exploring it, but we can, depending on the time frame and all that, I can try to look at some data that might be relevant for this group too, if some of the stuff I have been so far isn't as yeah, it's just more regional. So yeah, there's definitely opportunities there. So Erin and I can talk and look at that more.
Yeah, there's some pretty promising data from one of the National Wildlife Refuge sites where they've been collecting data on these berry producing shrubs that are important for bears up on Kodiak Island. And so it's actually they do super consistent data collection because they use cameras. They use actually trail cameras, and then they go through at the end of the season and like translate from the photos what they see into Nature's Notebook. So really different method, but it actually has resulted in some pretty nice fruiting data. So it's kind of a nice example of like what you could do with another method if you wanted to do some like really intensive data collection on a couple locations. Any last thoughts? Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate you. Nice to see your faces. It's been a little while, so good to see you all, and we'll connect in a couple months.
Okay. Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.